The engagement ring felt like a lead weight in my pocket as I sat in Murphy's bar, nursing my third bourbon and replaying the conversation that had shattered my world exactly 72 hours ago. The ice clinked against the glass as my hand trembled, not from alcohol, but from the memory of Vanessa's words. Before we get married, Eli, I need to see if there's still something with my ex. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Just like that. Casual as ordering coffee, like she was asking to borrow my car instead of requesting permission to cheat on me with the man who'd already broken her heart twice before. I'm Eliot Garvey, 38 years old, senior financial analyst at Meridian Holdings, and apparently the world's biggest fool. I'd spent 2 years building what I thought was a solid relationship with Vanessa Shaw, a marketing executive at Brightwater Communications. We'd bought a house together in Clearwater, renovated the kitchen, adopted a rescue dog named Buster, and planned a future that now felt like elaborate fiction. The bar's neon sign buzzed overhead, casting everything in sickly pink light. Murphy's was the kind of place where secrets went to die, or in my case, where they went to fester. The regulars knew everyone's business, and tonight, I was about to become the evening's entertainment. "You look like someone ran over your dog," said Frank Castellano, sliding onto the adjacent bar stool. Frank was my cousin, a mechanic with grease permanently embedded under his fingernails and a talent for stating the obvious. "What's eating you?" I took another sip of bourbon, savoring the burn. "Vanessa wants a hall pass." Frank's eyebrows shot up. "Oh, what now?" "She wants to sleep with her ex-boyfriend before our wedding. You know, for closure." The words tasted bitter. "Chad Rourke, remember him? The guy who dumped her for his yoga instructor 2 years ago?" "The pretty boy with the BMW?" Frank whistled low. "And you said what exactly?" That was the million-dollar question. What had I said? I'd stood there in our newly renovated kitchen, surrounded by the granite countertops we'd picked out together, the stainless steel appliances we'd saved for, the life we'd built, and I'd said the only thing a man could say when the woman he loved asked for permission to betray him. I said, "Okay." Frank choked on his beer. "You said what?" I said, "Okay." What else was I supposed to say? "No, you can't explore your feelings." Then I become the controlling fiancé who doesn't understand her needs. I laughed, but it came out hollow. She framed it like some kind of spiritual journey, said she couldn't commit to marriage with unresolved feelings hanging over us. The truth was more complicated. Vanessa had been different lately, distant, constantly checking her phone, working late more often. When Chad started liking her Instagram posts 3 weeks ago, I should have seen the writing on the wall, but I'd trusted her, or trusted us. "So where is she now?" Frank asked. I pulled out my phone and opened the Find My app. The little green dot that represented Vanessa's location pulsed steadily from Chad's beachfront condo in downtown St. Petersburg. She'd been there since Friday afternoon. It was now Sunday evening. Getting closure, apparently. Frank studied my face. "You're planning something?" He knew me too well. Growing up together in Queens before my family moved to Florida, Frank had seen me plot revenge against neighborhood bullies, cheating classmates, and the occasional corrupt boss. I had a talent for patience and an eye for detail that served me well in both finance and vengeance. "Maybe." The bar door chimed, and Renee Martinez walked in, scanning the room until her eyes landed on me. Renee was Vanessa's best friend and biggest enabler, a real estate agent who treated other people's drama like her personal soap opera. She had information, and from the guilty expression on her face, she was drunk enough to share it. "Eli," she called out, tottering over on impractical heels. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Where else would I be? My fiancée is having a spiritual awakening with her ex-boyfriend." Renee's face flushed. She ordered a Cosmopolitan and avoided eye contact. "It's not what you think." "Really? What is it then?" She glanced around nervously, then leaned closer. The alcohol on her breath was overwhelming. "Look, Vanessa's been confused lately. Chad's been texting her, saying he made a mistake, that he wants her back. She needed to know if those feelings were real or just nostalgia. And the best way to figure that out was to spend the weekend at his place? "She's not sleeping with him," Renee said, but her voice lacked conviction. "They're just talking." Frank snorted. "Right, talking. Is that what kids call it these days?" Renee's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her face went pale. Without thinking, she turned the screen toward me, revealing a text from Vanessa. "Chad's amazing. I forgot how good we are together. Not sure what to do about Eli." The words hit me like a physical blow. not sure what to do about Eli, like I was a problem to be solved, an inconvenience to be managed. Renee realized her mistake and quickly put the phone away. That's not what it sounds like. Actually, it sounds exactly like what it sounds like. I finished my bourbon and stood up. Thanks for the clarity, Renee. Really helpful. I walked out of Murphy's with Frank trailing behind me, my mind already working through possibilities. Vanessa thought she was being clever, playing both sides while she figured out which man offered the better deal. What she didn't know was that I'd been managing risk and analyzing data for 15 years. I knew how to spot patterns, how to predict outcomes, and how to protect my assets. The humid Florida air hit my face as we stepped into the parking lot. Frank lit a cigarette, waiting for me to speak. I need to see something, I said finally. See what? The truth. We drove to Chad's building in Frank's pickup truck, parking across the street with a clear view of the 15th floor balcony. Chad's BMW was in its assigned spot, and next to it sat Vanessa's Honda Civic. The sight of our cars parked side by side like some twisted symbol of domestic bliss made my stomach turn. There, Frank said, pointing upward. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Chad's condo, two silhouettes moved against the warm light. They were close together, intimate. As we watched, they embraced, and I saw Vanessa's distinctive profile as she tilted her head back to kiss him. I took out my phone and snapped several photos, the camera's zoom capturing details I wished I couldn't see. Vanessa's hands in Chad's hair, Chad's hands on her waist, the easy familiarity between them that spoke of recent practice. I'm sorry, man, Frank said quietly. Don't be. This is useful information. I walked over to Chad's BMW and pulled out a business card from my wallet. On the back, I wrote, Hope you're better at relationships than you are at being discreet. E. Then I slipped it under his windshield wiper. As we drove away, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp and constant, but it was being joined by something else, something colder and more focused. Vanessa wanted to play games? Fine. But she'd forgotten who she was playing against. Monday morning arrived with the kind of oppressive humidity that made Florida famous. I sat in our kitchen, my kitchen now really, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper like nothing had changed. Vanessa's key turned in the lock at exactly 7:30 a.m., right on schedule. She'd always been punctual, even when returning from betrayal. Good morning, she said, breezing in with her overnight bag and a guilty smile. How was your weekend? I looked up from the sports section, arranging my features into the expression of a trusting fiancé. Quiet. Watched some baseball, had a few beers with Frank. How was your closure? She busied herself making coffee, avoiding eye contact. It was good, really good. Chad and I talked through a lot of old issues. I feel much clearer now about everything. That's wonderful. I'm glad you got what you needed. The lie came easily. I'd spent Sunday night researching Vanessa's digital footprint, and what I'd found was illuminating. Our shared phone plan showed dozens of calls and texts between her and Chad over the past month. Our joint credit card revealed charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to. Our shared Google Calendar, which I'd helped set up for coordinating our schedules, showed work dinners that corresponded perfectly with Chad's Instagram posts from the same locations. Vanessa had been planning this affair for weeks, possibly months. The request for closure wasn't spontaneous soul-searching. It was a calculated move to legitimize what was already happening. So, what did you decide? I asked, sipping my coffee. About us, I mean. She sat down across from me, reaching for my hand. Her touch felt foreign now, contaminated. I love you, Eli. What Chad and I had was intense, but it was also destructive. We bring out the worst in each other. You and I, we're good together. Stable. We make sense. Stable. We make sense. Not passionate, not irreplaceable, not the love of her life, just the sensible choice, the safe option, the backup plan. I'm so glad, I said, squeezing her hand. I was worried I might lose you. Her smile was radiant with relief and guilt. Never. You're stuck with me. She kissed my forehead and headed upstairs to shower, probably washing off the scent of her weekend adventure. As soon as I heard the water running, I opened my laptop and got to work. First stop, our joint savings account. $53,000 accumulated over 2 years of shared expenses and careful planning. I transferred $40,000 to a new account I'd opened at a different bank, leaving just enough to avoid triggering automatic alerts. The mortgage on our house was in both our names, but I'd put down the entire down payment from my inheritance. My lawyer would have thoughts about that. Next, I called my real estate agent. Hi, Jennifer. It's Eli Garvey. I need to discuss selling the house on Maple Street. Is everything okay? I thought you and Vanessa were getting married next month. Change of plans. How quickly can we list it? With this market, if you're serious about selling, I can have it listed by Wednesday and show it this weekend. But Eli, you'll need both signatures. I'll handle Vanessa. Just get the paperwork ready. The shower was still running upstairs. I had time for one more call. Meridian Holdings, this is Patricia. Pat, it's Eli. I need to take some personal time. Starting today, actually. Family emergency. Patricia had been the receptionist for 12 years and knew everyone's business. Of course, honey. How long do you need? 2 weeks should do it. I'll let Mr. Henderson know. Take care of yourself. By the time Vanessa came downstairs, hair still damp and smelling like her expensive shampoo, I was back to reading the newspaper. She kissed my cheek and grabbed her purse. I'll be late tonight. Big presentation for the Morrison account? I nodded absently. Good luck with that. After she left, I opened her laptop. Password, Chad and Nessa 2019, which she'd never bothered to change, and began documenting everything. Screenshots of text conversations, email threads, browser history showing searches for how to know if you still love your ex, and emotional affair versus physical affair. The digital evidence painted a picture of a woman who'd been planning her exit strategy while playing the devoted fiancé. My phone rang. Frank. How'd it go this morning? She chose me. Apparently I'm the stable choice. Ouch. That's worse than being dumped. Much worse. Listen, I need a favor. Can you help me move some stuff today? Move stuff where? Storage unit. I'm consolidating some assets. Frank was quiet for a moment. You're really doing this? She made her choice. Now I'm making mine. We spent the afternoon moving my valuable possessions to a climate-controlled storage unit across town. My grandfather's watch collection, my signed baseball memorabilia, the vintage guitar I'd inherited from my uncle, my important documents, everything that mattered to me personally went into Unit 247. To anyone watching, it would look like spring cleaning. That evening, I sat in Murphy's bar again, but this time I wasn't alone in my misery. Roy Henderson, my 70-year-old neighbor, was holding court at his usual table, entertaining a small crowd with neighborhood gossip. Evening, Eli, he called out. How's the wedding planning going? Roy had lived on Maple Street for 40 years and knew everyone's business. He spent his retirement walking his ancient beagle and observing the comings and goings of his neighbors with the dedication of a professional spy. Good, Roy. Really good. Glad to hear it, though I have to say, that young man who's been visiting your house has excellent taste in cars. That BMW is a beauty. The conversation around Roy's table stopped. Everyone turned to look at me, sensing drama. Young man? I asked, playing dumb. Tall fellow, athletic build. He's been coming by when you're at work. Usually stays a few hours. I assumed he was a contractor or something, but he never seems to have any tools. The bar went silent, except for the buzz of neon signs and the distant sound of traffic. Roy realized he'd stepped in something, but it was too late to back out. I probably shouldn't have said anything. No, Roy, I appreciate you looking out for us. What kind of car did you say it was? BMW. Dark blue. License plate starts with XRT, I think. Chad's car. The confirmation I needed, delivered by a nosy neighbor in front of a room full of witnesses. Perfect. I stood up, leaving a 20 on the bar. Thanks for the information, Roy. Really helpful. As I walked out, I could hear the excited murmur of conversation behind me. By tomorrow, half the neighborhood would know that Eli Garvey's fiancée was entertaining men while he was at work. The gossip mill was officially turning. At home, Vanessa was already asleep, claiming exhaustion from her big presentation. I sat in the living room, surrounded by the life we'd built together, and began planning phase 2 of my strategy. She wanted to have her cake and eat it too? Fine. But she was about to discover that some cakes are poisoned. Tuesday morning brought rain and revelation. I sat in my car outside Brightwater Communications, watching Vanessa's office building through the steady drizzle. She'd left for work an hour ago, claiming another busy day with the Morrison account. What she didn't know was that I'd already called Morrison Industries, posing as a vendor, and learned they weren't even considering new marketing proposals this quarter. My phone buzzed with a text from Mia Chen, Vanessa's co-worker and social media obsessive. Mia and I had developed a friendly relationship over the past year. She appreciated that I remembered her birthday and always asked about her weekend plans at company parties. More importantly, she had access to Vanessa's work computer and a complete inability to keep secrets when properly motivated. Coffee? I have news, her text read. We met at a Starbucks near her apartment, far from Brightwater's downtown location. Mia arrived looking nervous, clutching her phone like a lifeline. I probably shouldn't be doing this, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. Doing what? She glanced around, then leaned forward conspiratorially. Vanessa's been using the company messaging system to chat with someone named Chad. A lot, like constantly. I arranged my features into an expression of confused concern. Chad? I don't know any Chad. Neither did I, until I saw her screen yesterday. She minimized it real quick when I walked by, but not before I saw some pretty intense messages. Mia pulled out her phone. I may have accidentally taken some screenshots when she left her computer unlocked. The photos showed a series of intimate conversations between Vanessa and Chad, discussing their weekend together, making plans for future meetings, and, most damaging, mocking me. Chad. When are you going to dump the accountant? Vanessa. He's a financial analyst, not an accountant. And it's complicated. He pays half the mortgage. Chad. So you're using him for money? Vanessa. I'm being practical. Eli's stable and reliable. You're exciting, but broke. Maybe I can have both for a while. Chad. You're evil. I love it. The messages continued in that vein, with Vanessa describing me as sweet but boring, and Chad encouraging her to milk the situation until she figured out her next move. There were also explicit photos that made my stomach turn and planning messages for meetings at hotels I'd never heard of. Mia, this is... I trailed off, letting her fill in the blanks. I know. I'm so sorry, Eli. I thought you should know. Can you send these to me? She hesitated. I could get fired. You could also save me from marrying someone who's playing me for a fool. That argument won. Mia forwarded the screenshots to my personal email, along with a promise to keep me informed if she saw anything else suspicious. After she left, I sat in my car reviewing the evidence. Vanessa wasn't just cheating, she was strategically manipulating both Chad and me, playing us against each other while she decided which option served her better. The weekend of closure had been a trial run, a test to see if she could manage both relationships simultaneously. My phone rang. Vanessa. Hi, honey. How's your day off going? Good. Just running some errands. How's the Morrison presentation? Stressful, but we're making progress. I might be late again tonight. This account is really demanding. Another lie. According to the screenshots, she was planning to meet Chad at the Marriott downtown at 6 o'clock. Don't work too hard. I love you. Love you too. The ease with which she lied was almost impressive. No hesitation, no guilt in her voice, just smooth deception delivered with perfect sincerity. I drove home and called my lawyer, David Brennan, who'd handled my father's estate and knew my financial situation intimately. Eli, good to hear from you. How are the wedding plans coming? That's actually why I'm calling. I need to understand my options if Vanessa and I break up. David was quiet for a moment. Is everything okay? Let's just say I'm doing some risk assessment. Fair enough. What specifically do you want to know? The house is in both our names, but I put down the entire down payment from my inheritance. The mortgage payments have been split 50-50. If we separate, what happens? You'd have a strong claim to the majority of the equity, especially if you can document the source of the down payment. Do you have those records? Yes. Good. What about other assets? Joint savings account, but I can prove most of the money came from my salary. Joint credit cards that I pay off each month. Her car is in her name, mine is in mine. Sounds like you've been careful. Any debts? Just the mortgage and her student loans, which are in her name only. You're in good shape legally. But Eli, if you're having doubts, maybe you should talk to Vanessa first. Work things out before involving lawyers. If only he knew. I'm just being cautious, David, but I want to be prepared. I understand. Call me if you need anything else. That evening, I put on my best performance yet. When Vanessa came home at 9:30, claiming exhaustion from her demanding clients, I was waiting with takeout from her favorite Thai restaurant and a bottle of wine. You're amazing, she said, kissing me deeply. The kiss tasted like guilt, an expensive cologne that wasn't mine. I just want you to know how much I appreciate everything you're doing for us. This Morrison account could really boost your career. She smiled, but I caught the flicker of panic in her eyes. It's challenging, but worth it. We ate dinner on the couch, watching a romantic comedy that felt like satire given our circumstances. Vanessa cuddled against me, playing the loving fiancé while probably thinking about Chad's hands on her body just hours earlier. Eli, she said during a commercial break, I've been thinking about our wedding. Oh? Maybe we should postpone it, just for a few months. I'm so busy with work, and planning a wedding on top of everything else feels overwhelming. There it was, the beginning of her exit strategy. String me along while she explored her options with Chad, then gradually distance herself until the breakup seemed mutual and inevitable. If that's what you want, I said carefully. I just want you to be happy. You're so understanding. Most men would be upset about postponing their wedding. I'm not most men. She was right about that. Most men would be upset. They'd argue, demand explanations, maybe even confront Chad directly, but I wasn't most men. I was a financial analyst who understood that the best revenge was systematic, thorough, and absolutely devastating. I love you, she whispered against my chest. I love you too, I replied, and for the first time in our relationship, the words felt like a weapon. Wednesday brought unexpected allies and devastating confirmations. I was having breakfast at Murphy's, my new office, really, when Renee stumbled in looking like she'd slept in her car. Her usually perfect makeup was smeared, her hair was disheveled, and she reeked of alcohol and poor decisions. Eli, she said, sliding into the booth across from me without invitation. We need to talk. About what? About Vanessa and Chad. About what's really going on. I sipped my coffee and waited. Renee was clearly having some kind of crisis, and crisis made people careless with information. I've been covering for her, she said finally. Lying to you, making excuses, helping her sneak around, but last night she crossed a line. What happened last night? Renee's hands shook as she lit a cigarette, ignoring the no-smoking signs. She called me crying, saying Chad was pressuring her to leave you, said he was tired of sharing her and wanted her to choose. So you know what she did? I waited. She asked me to help her figure out how to get half your assets in a breakup, wanted to know if I knew any divorce lawyers who could help her maximize her settlement. Renee's voice was bitter. She's not conflicted about her feelings, Eli. She's conflicted about money. The confirmation hit me like a physical blow, even though I'd suspected as much. Hearing it stated so bluntly, that Vanessa was literally calculating the financial benefits of our relationship, crystallized something cold and final in my chest. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm tired of being her accomplice, and because Chad called me last night, drunk off his ass, bragging about how he was going to steal Vanessa away from her boring fiancé and how they'd been laughing about you for weeks. Renee stubbed out her cigarette. I may be a lot of things, but I'm not cruel. You deserve better. She left without another word, leaving me alone with my coffee and my rage. I called Frank. How do you feel about a little breaking and entering? Depends. Are we talking misdemeanor or felony? Misdemeanor mischief at most. Chad's car is parked in the Brightwater garage. I have an idea. Frank arrived 20 minutes later with a toolbox and a grin. What's the plan? Nothing permanent, just a message. We drove to Brightwater Communications and parked near the employee garage. Chad's BMW was easy to spot. Vanity license plate reading Chad Man, because subtlety wasn't his strong suit. Frank popped the hood while I kept watch. Jesus, this guy really loves himself, Frank muttered, examining the pristine engine. Custom everything. Probably cost more than my truck. Can you disable it without causing permanent damage? Sure. Disconnect the battery, remove a few spark plugs, let some air out of the tires. He'll think it's mechanical failure, but any decent mechanic can fix it in an hour. While Frank worked, I composed a note on Brightwater letterhead I'd grabbed from the lobby. Congratulations on your performance review. Management has been watching your extracurricular activities with great interest. HR. I slipped it under his windshield wiper just as Frank finished his sabotage. Done. This baby's not going anywhere. We left the garage and drove to a nearby coffee shop with a clear view of the building's exit. At 5:15, employees began streaming out. At 5:30, Vanessa appeared, checking her phone constantly. At 5:45, Chad emerged, looking frustrated and talking animatedly into his phone. Through the coffee shop window, we watched Chad discover his car troubles. He tried the engine several times, then got out and kicked the tire in frustration. When he found the note, his face went pale. He looked around nervously, then called someone, probably Vanessa, and began pacing. Think he's scared? Frank asked. Terrified. Guys like Chad live in constant fear that their actions have consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Car trouble. Going to be late. Don't wait up. I texted back. Sorry to hear that. Need me to pick you up? No, getting a ride from a coworker. Love you. Another lie. Through the window, I could see Chad calling an Uber while Vanessa waited nearby, pretending they weren't together. That evening, I put the final pieces of my plan into motion. I called Jennifer, my real estate agent. The house is ready to list. I'll have Vanessa sign the paperwork tonight. Excellent. I already have 3 buyers interested based on the neighborhood alone. This market is incredible. Next, I called David, my lawyer. I need you to draft a breach of promise letter. Nothing actionable, just something official looking that outlines the financial implications of a broken engagement. Eli, what's going on? I'm protecting my interests. How quickly can you have it ready? Tomorrow morning? Perfect. Finally, I called my bank and authorized the complete liquidation of our joint accounts. By morning, Vanessa would have access to exactly $1,247, enough to avoid any claims of theft, not enough to fund her new life with Chad. When Vanessa came home at 11 p.m., she found me waiting in the living room with a bottle of wine and a stack of papers. "What's all this?" she asked, eyeing the documents suspiciously. "Wedding planning. I know you said you wanted to postpone, but I thought we should at least get our finances organized. You know, joint accounts, insurance beneficiaries, that sort of thing." She relaxed slightly. "That's very thoughtful." I also talked to Jennifer about refinancing the house. Interest rates are good right now, and we could save a few hundred a month. She just needs both our signatures to get the process started. I handed her the real estate listing agreement, buried in a stack of legitimate financial documents. Vanessa, exhausted from her double life and distracted by guilt, signed everything without reading carefully. "There," she said, handing back the papers. "All done. I'm going to bed. It's been a long day." I bet it has. After she went upstairs, I reviewed the signed documents: listing agreement, asset transfer forms, and, most importantly, a notarized statement that she'd agreed to sell the house and split the proceeds according to our documented contributions. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Chad. We need to talk." I smiled and typed back, "I don't think we do." "Yes, we do. Tomorrow, noon, Murphy's Bar. Come alone." "Or what?" "Or I tell Vanessa you've been stalking us." I laughed out loud. Chad thought he was threatening me, but he'd just given me exactly what I needed: a public confrontation with witnesses. "See you at noon," I typed back. Phase 3 was about to begin. Murphy's Bar at noon on a Thursday was exactly what I'd hoped for: crowded with lunch regulars, construction workers, and retirees who had nothing better to do than watch drama unfold. I arrived early and chose a table near the center of the room, ensuring maximum visibility for whatever Chad had planned. He walked in at exactly 12 o'clock, looking like a man who'd spent the morning psyching himself up for a fight. Chad was 6'2", gym-muscled, and used to intimidating people through sheer physical presence. What he didn't know was that I'd been dealing with aggressive personalities my entire career. Wall Street types, hostile clients, corporate bullies, they all used the same playbook. "Garvey," he said, sliding into the seat across from me without being invited. "Rourke, thanks for coming. Can I buy you a beer?" The casual greeting threw him off balance. He'd probably expected anger, jealousy, maybe even violence. Instead, he got politeness and apparent calm. "I'm not here to drink with you." "What are you here for, then?" Chad leaned forward, lowering his voice to what he probably thought was a menacing whisper. "I'm here to tell you to back off. Stop following us. Stop messing with my car. Stop whatever pathetic games you're playing." The entire bar had gone quiet, sensing conflict. Roy Henderson was at his usual table, practically vibrating with excitement. Frank sat at the bar, nursing a beer and pretending not to know me. Mia Chen had somehow materialized at a corner booth. Apparently word of this meeting had spread through Vanessa's social circle. "I'm not following anyone," I said calmly. "Though I have to ask, how's the car running? Mechanical problems can be so frustrating." Chad's face flushed. "You son of a—" "Careful," I interrupted. "We're in public. Wouldn't want people to get the wrong impression about your character." "My character? You're the one who can't accept that Vanessa doesn't want you anymore." The words hung in the air like a challenge. I could feel the attention of everyone in the bar focused on our table, waiting for my response. "Is that what she told you? That she doesn't want me anymore?" "She told me she's leaving you, that she's tired of pretending to love someone she feels nothing for." I nodded thoughtfully, pulling out my phone. "That's interesting, because this morning she signed papers to refinance our house together. Seems like an odd thing to do if she's planning to leave me." Chad's confidence wavered slightly. She's being careful, trying not to hurt you." "How considerate. Speaking of consideration, how long have you two been sleeping together?" "That's none of your business." "Actually, it is. See, Vanessa and I have joint assets, joint accounts, joint responsibilities. When she makes decisions that affect our shared finances, it becomes very much my business." I opened my phone and pulled up the screenshots Mia had provided, turning the screen so Chad could see his own messages. For instance, when she uses our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms where you two can explore your connection, that's my business. When she lies about working late while she's actually with you, that affects our household planning. When you two discuss how to milk the situation until she figures out her next move, Well, that's definitely my business. Chad's face went white as he recognized his own words. Around us, the bar patrons leaned closer, not even pretending to mind their own business anymore. Where did you get those? Does it matter? The point is, I know exactly what's been going on. I know about the weekend at your place. I know about the hotel meetings. I know about your little plan to help her maximize her settlement when she leaves me. Chad stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You're sick, spying on your own fiancée, stalking us. I'm not stalking anyone. I'm protecting my interests. There's a difference. Vanessa's going to hear about this. I'm sure she will. In fact, why don't you call her right now? Tell her I know everything. Tell her the jig is up. Chad pulled out his phone, then hesitated. He was realizing that calling Vanessa would confirm everything I'd just accused them of in front of a room full of witnesses. That's what I thought, I said. You know, Chad, I almost feel sorry for you. You think you're getting the prize, but you're actually getting the consolation. Vanessa doesn't love you any more than she loves me. The only thing she loves is having options. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Let me guess. She tells you I'm boring, stable, predictable, good for security but not for passion. Makes you feel special, like you're the exciting choice. But has she actually left me yet? Has she moved out, broken our engagement, chosen you definitively? Chad's silence was answer enough. Of course not. Because she's not choosing you, Chad. She's choosing herself. You're just another option in her portfolio and not even the most valuable one. I stood up, leaving a 20 on the table. Enjoy your afternoon? I'm sure you have a lot to discuss with Vanessa. As I walked toward the door, Roy Henderson called out, Eli, good luck with everything. The old man's voice carried across the silent bar, and suddenly everyone was looking at me with something like respect. I'd been publicly humiliated, my fiancée was cheating, my relationship was a sham, but I'd handled it with dignity and intelligence. I'd turned the tables on my tormentor and walked away with my head high. Outside, Frank was waiting by his truck, grinning. That was beautiful, man. You destroyed him without raising your voice. Phase 3 complete. Ready for the finale? What's the finale? I pulled out my phone and showed him a text from Jennifer, my real estate agent. House showing scheduled for Saturday at 2 p.m. Buyers are very interested. You're really selling the house? Already sold it. The papers Vanessa signed last night included a listing agreement. We should have an offer by Sunday. Frank whistled low. She's going to lose her mind. That's the point. By the time this is over, she'll have no house, no money, and a boyfriend who now knows exactly what kind of person she really is. My phone buzzed with an angry text from Vanessa. Chad said you threatened him. We need to talk now. I typed back. I'll be home at 6. We can talk then. The final confrontation was 12 hours away, and I was ready for it. I arrived home at exactly 6 p.m. to find Vanessa pacing in the living room like a caged animal. She'd clearly been crying, her makeup was smeared, and she clutched her phone like a weapon. Chad sat on our couch, my couch now, looking sullen and defeated. We need to talk, Vanessa said the moment I walked in. I agree. Hello, Chad. Nice to see you in my house. It's our house, Vanessa snapped. Actually, it's not, but we'll get to that. I sat down in my favorite armchair, the one I'd inherited from my grandfather, and looked calmly at the two people who'd spent months plotting against me. Chad tells me you've been spying on us, Vanessa continued, following us, taking pictures, threatening him. I haven't threatened anyone. I have been documenting things, though, for legal purposes. Legal purposes? I pulled out a folder I'd prepared and set it on the coffee table. Breach of promise, alienation of affection, fraud. When someone plans to break an engagement while simultaneously trying to maximize their financial benefit from that broken engagement, it creates certain legal vulnerabilities. Vanessa's face went pale. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you've been planning this affair for months while lying to me about your intentions. I'm talking about using our joint credit cards to fund your relationship with Chad. I'm talking about the conversations you've had about how to milk the situation until you figured out your next move. I opened the folder and spread out printed screenshots of their text conversations, credit card statements showing hotel charges, and a timeline I'd constructed of their meetings. This is all illegal, Chad said, but his voice lacked conviction. You can't spy on people. I didn't spy on anyone. I reviewed my own credit card statements, checked my own shared accounts, and documented communications on devices I helped pay for. Everything here was obtained legally. Vanessa was staring at the evidence with growing horror. How long have you known? About the affair? Since Sunday? About your true feelings for me? Much longer. You're not as good an actress as you think you are, Vanessa. If you knew, why didn't you say something? Because I wanted to see how far you'd go. I wanted to understand exactly what kind of person I was planning to marry. I gestured to the papers spread across the table. Now I know. Chad stood up abruptly. This is insane. Vanessa, we don't have to listen to this. Actually, you do, I said calmly, because we're not done yet. I pulled out another set of documents, the real estate listing agreement, the bank statements showing the liquidated accounts, and the lawyer's letter outlining the legal implications of breach of promise. Vanessa, remember those papers you signed last night? The ones I said were for refinancing? She nodded slowly, dread growing in her eyes. They were actually listing agreements. Our house goes on the market tomorrow. We already have a buyer lined up, cash offer, quick closing. You can't sell our house without my permission. I'm not. You gave me permission. Your signature is right there, notarized and legally binding. Vanessa grabbed the papers, scanning them frantically. This is fraud. You tricked me. I presented you with legal documents and you signed them without reading them. That's not fraud, that's negligence. Chad was looking back and forth between us like he was watching a tennis match. Vanessa, what is he talking about? He's talking about the fact that our relationship was built on a lie, I said. The house you thought she owned? She doesn't. The money you thought she had? She doesn't. The stable, successful woman you thought you were stealing from me? She's about to be homeless and broke. That's not true, Vanessa said desperately. I have my job, my savings. Your savings were in our joint account, which I liquidated yesterday. Legally, since my name was on the account and I could document that most of the money came from my salary. The room fell silent, except for Vanessa's ragged, panicked breathing. You can't do this, she whispered. I already did, I said. And the best part? Nothing I've done is illegal. I'm just protecting what's mine from a liar. I walked to the window, staring at the yard we'd never share. You thought I'd curl up and die when I found out. You thought you could keep both of us on the hook until you picked the better deal. I loved you, she tried. No, you loved the safety net. Chad finally spoke. So what happens now? Now you get exactly what you wanted. Each other. No complications from me. I smiled. Good luck with rent. Vanessa's evicted Sunday, your lease is up, and her job ends Monday. HR got an anonymous packet this morning. Screenshots, timestamps, all of it. Vanessa folded like wet paper. You sent that to my family too? Everyone who mattered. She turned to Chad, desperate. He was already inching toward the door, eyes wide, realizing the prize came with baggage he couldn't afford. I opened the front door. Time to go? Vanessa, boxes by Sunday or it's donated. Where am I supposed to? I'm sure love will find a way, I said, and shut the door on their shouting. Through the window, I watched Chad's BMW cough and sputter, Frank's parting gift. It would run, just never well again. My phone buzzed. Frank. They gone? Both of them. He laughed. Enjoy the show. That car's going to nickel and dime him into the ground. The house was quiet. Really quiet. I poured a bourbon, sat in my grandfather's chair, and let the silence settle like snow. An email pinged. Offer accepted. Closing in 2 weeks. Outside, the BMW finally limped down the street, backfiring like applause. I raised my glass to the empty room. Cheers to consequences.